Welcome to Not the Code, where we explore the human side of software development. It's 5:30 on a Friday afternoon. The office is starting to empty out, you can hear keyboards clicking less frequently, and you're sitting there staring at the same database error message you've been wrestling with since lunch. This was me, 2 months into my first developer job. I had what should have been a simple database query, just getting some user data with a join. But somehow my where clause had turned into my nemesis. I'd been Googling every variation of SQL join error I could think of for 3 hours. Stack Overflow wasn't even born yet. I'm probably dating myself here. 3 hours. When one of our senior developers stopped by my desk on his way out, he glanced at my screen for maybe 10 seconds. "Oh, you're missing the table alias in your where clause," he said, pointing to line 7. "Easy mistake. I did that same thing last week." 10 seconds. Problem solved. That moment taught me something crucial about being a junior developer. I'd been treating my struggle as some kind of badge of honor when I should have reached out hours earlier. The gap between struggling alone and getting unstuck often isn't about how smart you are or how much you know. It's about knowing how and when to ask for help effectively. Now, here's what people keep forgetting about being a junior developer. The hardest part isn't actually learning to code. Sure, there's a learning curve with syntax and frameworks and all that, but the real challenge, it's learning to get help without looking helpless. Most of the advice out there is either too vague, just ask questions, or way too intimidating. You know, the kind that makes you feel like you need to exhaust every possible resource on the planet before you're worthy of asking a human being for help. Neither approach works in real team dynamics, where deadlines matter and everyone's juggling multiple priorities. After my database disaster, the senior developer introduced me to what he called the 15-minute rule. And let me tell you, this completely changed how I approached getting stuck. Here's how it works. When you hit a roadblock, give yourself exactly 15 minutes to figure it out independently. Set a timer. Actually set a timer. During those 15 minutes, you do the focused work. Google the error message. Check the documentation for the specific method or framework you're using. Review similar code in your code base. This one's huge because often someone on your team has solved something similar. Try 1 or 2 obvious solutions. But here's the key. If you're still stuck after 15 minutes of active problem solving, it's time to ask for help. Not 45 minutes, not 2 hours of spinning your wheels, 15 focused minutes. Why this works? First, you demonstrate effort without wasting time. Your team sees you as someone who tries to solve problems independently, but knows when to escalate. Second, you avoid those productivity-killing rabbit holes that can eat entire afternoons. Been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. And third, this is important. You respect both your time and your team's time. Now, let me share the question framework that consistently gets results. I've watched junior developers ask for help in ways that either frustrate their teammates or don't actually get them useful information. This framework addresses both problems. First, lead with context. Start with what you're trying to accomplish, not what's broken. Instead of saying, "My API call isn't working," try, "I'm trying to update user preferences, but the API call is returning a 422 error." See the difference? You're giving your teammate the big picture, not just the symptom. They can immediately start thinking about validation issues, data formatting problems, that sort of thing. Second, show your work. Explain what you've already tried. This isn't about proving you're smart. It's about helping your teammate understand where you are in the problem-solving process. For example, I've checked the API documentation and confirmed the endpoint is correct. I also tested the same call in Postman, and it works there. So I think it might be a header issue in my JavaScript. Now, your teammate doesn't have to start from zero. They can build on what you've already discovered. Step 3, be specific about the error. Vague descriptions like, "It's not working," or "Something's wrong," force your teammate to play detective. Include exact error messages, unexpected outputs, or specific behaviors. And step 4, ask for understanding, not just fixes. Instead of, "Can you fix this?" try, "Can you help me understand why this is happening? I want to make sure I can spot this type of issue next time." This is the difference between getting help once and learning to solve similar problems yourself. Now, here's something I learned the hard way. Timing matters. Even perfect questions can fall flat if your timing is off. You don't need to be a mind reader, but you do need to pay attention to context. Good times to ask for help? During designated office hours or mentorship time. When someone's clearly between tasks, they just close their laptop or they're getting coffee. When you're genuinely blocked on priority work. Times to wait? When someone's clearly in deep focus, headphones on, multiple monitors full of code, that intense concentration face we all know. During crunch periods or right before deployments, when someone just got back from vacation. The middle ground? Send a message like, "When you have 10 minutes, could you help me understand a React state issue? No rush, I can work on other tasks while I wait." Here's something interesting I noticed in my first year. Some junior developers became known as question machines. You know the type, constantly interrupting with stream of consciousness problems. But others developed reputations as thoughtful problem solvers who occasionally needed guidance. The difference wasn't the number of questions they asked. It was the quality and follow-through. The developers who built good reputations did 3 things consistently. First, they documented the solutions. When someone helped them solve a problem, they'd add a comment to their code or create a note in the team's knowledge base. This showed they were thinking beyond just getting unstuck. Second, they closed the loop. A few days later, they'd mention how the advice helped or share a related insight. "Hey, that join syntax tip you gave me, it helped me solve a similar issue in the reporting module yesterday." Third, they paid it forward. When they saw other junior developers struggling with problems they'd encountered, they'd offer to help. This showed they were absorbing knowledge and contributing to team culture, not just taking from it. Let me share one more story that really drives this home. About 8 months after I started, we hired a new junior developer named Alex. Smart kid, good fundamentals, but he was making some of the same mistakes I had made. One day, Alex spent half the morning trying to figure out why his React component wasn't re-rendering when the props changed. I could see him getting more and more frustrated. Finally, I walked over and took a look. The issue was that he was mutating an array directly instead of creating a new one, so React wasn't detecting the change. Classic mistake. I'd made the exact same error during my second month. But here's what was interesting. When I showed Alex the fix, instead of just saying thanks and moving on, he asked me to explain why React works that way. We ended up having a 15-minute conversation about immutability and React's reconciliation process. 2 weeks later, Alex helped another new developer with a similar issue. And a month after that, he was the one explaining React rendering to someone else during a code review. That's the long game. The bigger picture. 6 months after my own database disaster, I found myself in that senior developer's position, helping a new junior developer debug their first API integration. Watching them work through the same uncertainty I'd felt, I realized something important. Asking for help isn't just about solving immediate problems. It's about learning to collaborate effectively, building relationships with your team, and gradually developing the judgment to know when you need support. The junior developers who thrive aren't the ones who never need help. They're the ones who ask thoughtful questions at the right time, learn from the answers, and gradually become the people others turn to for guidance. Your team hired you knowing you'd need to learn and grow. They expect questions. They just want them to be thoughtful ones. Next time you're stuck, remember, it's not whether you should ask for help, it's whether you're asking in a way that helps both you and your team succeed. And yes, use that timer, 15 minutes. Trust me on this one. That's a wrap for today's episode. If this helped you think differently about asking for help, please share it with other developers who might benefit. And don't forget to subscribe for more insights on the human side of software development. Until next time, keep building better together.